Good evening, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for our monthly For the Record St. Albans Today show. And happy to have our regular guest, St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. To my right, St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman Brendan Deso. To my left. Brendan, I hate to start off with some tough news, but it's certainly, boy, it's terrible. Seems like I'm the last person to know anything these days, but I just got the news from you. The very sad news about the death of Judge Bob Johnson, of course, husband of your longtime town manager, Kerry Johnson.
Unfortunately, last night, Bob passed away unexpectedly. We haven't, put together any official plan on how we'd like to move forward, but we're just, our hearts, our condolences, our thoughts all day long. They've all been with the Johnson family and Kerry. Bob lived for Franklin County. He loved the county government. He loved being a side judge. He loved,
of course, former St. Albans Town Select Board member, former DRB member,
Planning Commission. He did it all. I mean, this is a guy that, he lived for his community. I think you'll see that in his kids. They're all community-oriented people, and Kerry being the town manager. We just feel so terribly for him, and for Kerry and their children and their extended family, and it's a terrible loss for Franklin County. We worked today, everybody stayed on. We offered to let staff go home. They all stayed. They worked very hard. We got through everything Kerry had planned for her day. We have a really good group of people down at Town Hall. They're all, working really hard to have their managers back, and, anything that we can do, officially and otherwise to help Kerry and her family, the lines of communication are pretty open, and we're here to do anything we can.
Yeah, that's where it's Brendan. Mary, you obviously knew Judge Johnson pretty well.
Knew Bob for years.
Yeah.
He and I were usually on the same page on a lot of topics.
Yeah.
We worked with him when he was on the select board to get the industrial park in the town expanded. I'm sitting here thinking that Bob's father passed away within the last month.
Wow.
They were down in Connecticut, I believe, at that funeral. I saw Bob on a regular basis playing racquetball up at the not playing me, but he was always active with Carl Rosenquist playing racquetball.
Yeah, I'd see him on Monday nights when I go to play tennis at Collins, probably over the winter. To see him most Monday nights, it seemed like.
And I would just repeat what Brendan said, is that he was just, he was there for the good of the community and good of the county, and it's going to be a loss.
Yeah.
So.
Boy, that's a tough one, of course. Re-elected to another, 4-year term, actually, as county side judge last November.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, and back in my full-time reporting days, I can recall having conversations with Bob as a then select board member. But someone who certainly knew Franklin County well and served it very well.
We last night around 5 o'clock, I had about a half-hour conversation with Bob. The normal town gossip and talking about what's going on at Town Hall, and I knew that he was really excited for the direction that we were going to head, and supported it fully. I can't express how big of a loss this is, not only for our town but for all of Franklin County.
Yeah, no, that's well put. I love talking politics with Bob. Just kind of off the cuff. Had many a good conversation with him. Yeah, that's real tough. That's real tough news. Very tough news. Well, this is a live show. At least if you're watching us live, love to get some calls. 528-5315 is our number, and plenty of issues to talk about always in St. Albans City and St. Albans Town. I just got back from being on the road for a few weeks, got back Saturday night, came up from Ocean City, Maryland, drove up, courtesy of a ferry, the Cape May ferry. Anyway, but all day I'm not eating much, thinking, let me get back in time to get some festival food. So pull into the St. Albans Library at about 8 o'clock, just as kind of dusk, not a nice day, cold day, run down to Main Street, everything's closed. That's so much for I did make the maple breakfast Sunday morning. I think I walked right by Congressman Welch. I was eating with the parents, Leonard and Diane, and walked out the door after our breakfast, and I think Diane said, "Hey, Rich, that was Congressman Welch in there." Did you see him on Sunday?
Yeah, we had, they had reached out to our office, and last year, before the parade, between the breakfast, which he helps work at, and the parade, last year we coordinated a meeting with multiple towns and some of their select board members. I know Bill Nine was there from the town. Matt Crawford was there from Georgia. There was some representation from Swanton as well. I don't remember everyone. We did a very similar thing this time, but we dealt with more of the town administrators and the town managers. So I was there representing the city. Carrie was there representing, Carrie Johnson was there representing the town. Dave Juskavich, Swanton Town, Reg Belleville, Swanton Village, Heidi Valenta, Highgate, and Mike McCarthy from Georgia. So we had a good representation, good conversation about infrastructure and the needs in the community. And Congressman Welch was gracious enough to give us about an hour of his time, and there was no press there. It was just a round table conversation, and it worked out well.
Easy to think of the congressman with the ongoing, a lot of stuff already done, revitalization of downtown St. Albans. Right. I think maybe under the mayorship of Marty Manahan, Tim, Congressman Welch, through his office, came through with some, I think, significant early outside money to kind of help get things going.
Transportation grants that really helped kick it off.
Yeah.
So that was instrumental in the progress over the next 10 years. So, about 10 years. So.
Interesting. Brendan, have you met Congressman Welch? Have you had dealings with him?
Yeah, we've had a meeting in the last year with the select board and the congressman, and he's very good at constituent outreach, and he's good at making local governments feel like they have a place in his office. Yep. And I'm really excited that the headlines coming out of the White House yesterday were that the president had a positive meeting
with some Democrats.
With the minority leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi saying that they've got a $2 trillion
infrastructure, I guess. Sounds like maybe the one issue they can actually get together on, perhaps.
Well, the president being a former, real estate developer, loves the idea of spending money on infrastructure. I think in a lot of areas it's long overdue. So I guess in a couple of weeks they're going to meet to talk about how they want to finance it. And of course, we got to add that to the national debt. But if anything any way that we can, be alert and pay attention to that, infrastructure package, and I'm sure a lot of local communities like ours are going to benefit from it in one way or another. It seems like a lot of the money that we do end up with every time we do a special project seems to be federally funded. So we're paying attention. And if Carrie were here, she'd thank the congressman for the invitation. And I did talk with her Monday, and she said that she felt that it was about 45 minutes, she said, and she felt that it was a really neat and productive experience to get everybody from Franklin County in one room. And it's just nice to see familiar faces and all be working towards one common goal of, bringing in some serious funding to make Franklin County the best it can be.
That's good. I guess Senator Bernie, didn't make it to the Maple Festival. Surprising not to see him. I think I'm kidding here.
I think
he's got other things on his mind.
Bernie has a different agenda than the state of Vermont right now.
Yeah, it seems like it. Of course, I did see Senator Leahy. I caught a little bit of Pat on TV questioning Attorney General William Barr today for contentious exchanges, as one might guess.
Yeah, I don't imagine we're going to see Bernie in the state for quite a while now.
Yeah, interesting. So back to the Maple Festival again. I just got back Saturday night. I did catch the Maple Breakfast Sunday morning, which was excellent. Great company with the parents here. Boy, not the best weather, and certainly not the best weather for Maple Festival weekend. Aside from that, did it still seem like decent crowds, Tim and Brendan? Or weather didn't help, I'm sure.
Weather definitely did not help. I mean, it was raining most of Friday.
Really?
And then Saturday it rained probably right up to about 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then it dried out. A little bit of a wind, a little brisk. And then
Yeah, it was brisk.
Sunday the rain held off, and parade was decent.
Yeah.
And then you had the sun came out probably halfway through the parade, and I think the vendors made their money.
So Sunday wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But I've told a number of people I was impressed with the festival. I know Cecile Brandon puts a ton of time in. I saw her throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
I think they really paid attention to detail. I think they've offered a number of different programs or destinations. I took my kids to BFA where they had a marionette show and a magician. The bands, from any time I heard them, which was Friday afternoon and into Friday night, I thought the bands were excellent.
Yeah.
And as always, the parade was well organized, and I think I'd heard 70 entries for the parade.
Oh yeah. Did the Congressman Welch? Was he in the parade?
He did walk in the parade. Yeah. I did not. I saw him getting in line, but I did not see him in the parade. But so yeah, I think it can always be better. I think all the activities, talent show and bands and everything else were well received. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry the weather. Sorry, Mother Nature wasn't a little kinder to the Maple Fest. And this coming weekend, some noteworthy events. Green Up Day, of course, first Saturday in May coming up, and the Run for Jim. Talk about a real nice event. Our old late friend Jim Bashaw. I mean, that's been I've been impressed. We lost Jim a number of years ago, and boy, how many? I think hundreds of thousands of dollars have been raised for the catastrophic illness fund out of the Northwestern Medical Center. It's folks still give that a lot of attention. It says a lot about Jimmy Bashaw, and that's coming up Sunday.
Sunday, walk, run, 5K.
Yeah,
Kids
I
runs.
won't be running, but I'll be walking.
Kids runs on the track. They. I think. Don't quote me, but I think I saw a figure of $750,000 have been raised and distributed over the time.
It's really impressive.
On let me check my dates here. So so the 16th of May, there's another event for the Jim Bashaw Fund at 14 Star, where they're doing an auction of more. It's a live auction with more high-end. Not products, but offerings. I know that Chuck down at the marina has offered up a marina slip that can be bid on, and all the proceeds will go to the Jim Bashaw Fund. So that's I think this is their 25th anniversary.
Wow, really big one.
Yeah, so that's why they're doing this along with the run.
Right, it's great. Green Up Day, is that, Brendan, you're a youthful guy, is that getting some attention in the town?
It is. A couple members of our Parks Committee are going to, work to help man some spots down in the Bay Park and up by SATEC. And there's some talks of targeting some other areas if we get enough volunteers. So I would say anybody who is thinking that they'd like to, do any Green Up Day, organized activity, because obviously you can always get green bags and do it on your own accord. Call town hall. Yeah. We'll find a place that you want to work, and we'll make sure you have the tools in place. And our call-in number is 802-524-7589. We're looking for volunteers. Last year I think Casey Toof and I were in the Bay, and I think the total was somewhere around 15 bags. I guess you can't stress enough how important it is to, properly handle any drug paraphernalia if you do find it.
That's a very good point.
Mason jars are always something that, the hospital occasionally will recommend, depending who you talk to. Old bottles of dish soap, something that can't be punctured easily. So we'll have some designated people to help with that. If you'd like to bring your kids, we'll have people that are able to take care of that. You won't have to worry about handling it.
Just to add to that, so I have a flyer, and I'll forward it to you, Brendan. We sort of altered a flyer. They had the flyer from the Department of Health had what Brendan's saying, how to handle the needles. You know, we may have 14 and 15-year-old kids out on their own picking up litter.
Cub Scouts are usually out.
Cub Scouts under the guidance of Brad Jenkins, and Brad's not doing it. So Liz and Brad Jackson are doing it in the town, and I've sort of doing the city.
Yeah.
The city has 5 checkpoints: City School, Taylor Park, Senior Center, Barlow Street, and Houghton Park. So we'll be handing out bags there, and I'll send you the flyer, Brendan. But what we've altered the flyer a little bit to discourage people from actually trying to pick up the needles.
Don't even
bother. And we've put the police department's number, so whoever it is can call the police department, give them the location of the needle, and let the police deal with it. Don't even try to make an effort.
Yeah.
It's not worth the risk.
No, it's not worth the risk. So
probably in the early days of Hank Green Up Day goes back to what, the days of Governor Dean Davis?
1970. Yep.
Boy, probably wasn't much concern about needles back then, I suspect.
And that, and I remember doing it. I was, I was 8 years old,
Really?
or 10 years old, and they used to load up. Early years, we loaded up a bus, and they brought us up on the interstate.
Did they?
Yeah,
Really?
you unloaded on the interstate.
Wow.
Of course, car traffic was few and far between back then.
Interesting.
But we used to walk the sides of the interstate picking up. And there's down in the office in Montpelier, in the Green Up office, there's a picture.
Great picture.
With one adult supervisor and probably 8 or 10 kids, roughshod kids with torn sweatshirts and everything, and they're standing on the side of the interstate with some cars going by. So
Interesting.
I've worked hard in the city, and this will be our second one, is just trying to get more numbers out, get families out.
Yeah.
I went down to the city school yesterday morning, talked to a couple classes. We've handed out, I'll go down on Friday afternoon and hand out bags to parents as they pick up kids. So just trying to get the word out.
So it still seems like Green Up Day's got some life to it, huh? Boy, about 50 years or so then, huh? It's been around for a while.
Coming up on 50 next year. So the surprising thing to me was I dropped some posters off at one of the local stores, and the lady I gave it to said, "What is Green Up?"
Is that right? No clue.
No clue what Green Up was, which sort of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
But if we keep working and promoting it between the city and town, and Brad and Liz on board, we'll try to get back to where it used to be.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the city and town, sounds like relations, which are, I think, often better than some people on the outside think, but sounds like you folks are really working to get them better. Have we talking some joint meetings? Any joint meetings at this point?
We just canceled it. The town wasn't going to agree to something, so we canceled. No.
Oh, yeah.
No, because of the situation with Carrie and Bob, we were scheduled to go
on
May 13th.
No, really.
Carrie and Dominic were in the process of putting together an agenda, and we just don't. Brendan and I spoke today and just feel the timing is not right. We can put this off for a month and regroup.
So hopefully maybe June sometime?
Maybe June. It's definitely in the works, but timing just isn't.
Oh, sure.
The plan...
Totally understandable.
The plan in place was to have a meeting in the Bliss Room. Some opportunity to promote the museum. Beautiful room. I think we're going to shoot for middle to end of June probably. Some night that works for everybody. Maybe build in a social hour beforehand. The focus, and I think even everybody on both sides, I think we're all excited to just get together in the same room, hear from our staff maybe to see how they're collaborating. Because, if you look at our two municipalities operationally, we already collaborate more so than most neighboring municipalities do. So I'd like to see that highlighted, and then, our number one priority in our sidewalk master plan is actually to extend Congress Street's sidewalk all the way to Hardack. And the mayor,
you mentioned that, Tim, would be a good initiative if you could pull that off.
So I think that belongs on an agenda. I think bike and ped joint efforts, period, will be on that agenda. Carrie and I actually yesterday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon had, started hammering out what we might want to send to Dominic, for he and Tim to review. And that was definitely on there. But again, like Tim said, the timing wasn't right. We're gonna give Carrie the time that she needs to, grieve and do what she needs to do.
Sure.
And then when she gets back to work, we'll go from there, because it's really important to everyone that, the city manager and the town manager play their role in curating this meeting.
Yeah.
And that was happening. And it will happen, this meeting, but we did push it off about a month.
Yeah, understandable.
Brendan and I have spoken on a couple of occasions that the feedback we've gotten since that article was in the Messenger and,
Yeah.
and the discussion of combined meeting has been nothing but good.
Yeah.
There's been no one that I've come in contact with has said you guys are crazy. Don't, it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
It's about time.
Yeah, that's good.
Congratulations. You guys can make it work.
Yeah.
And they're in an agreement, to just start out nice and slow.
Yeah.
See, work on a few projects and grow it from there. So.
Yeah, it makes sense. The Swanton situation, of course, different. Swanton Village, an incorporated village in the town of Swanton. The state just sees one Swanton, but still, Swanton Town Selectmen, village trustees meet periodically.
Yep.
Those folks seem to get along very, very well. Yeah, it certainly sounds like a makes sense thing to do to me anyway. Anyway.
No, we're already collaborating. I mean, it's worth it to highlight, if we were to meet, if everything went well on a semi-annual basis or quarterly, we'll see where it goes. That opens up opportunities to get community policing updates from our shared chief.
Yeah, good point.
Rec is run by the city. Kelly Vians could give a recreation update to both boards at once. It's just that, and we'll be able to actually get in a room and collaborate. And like Tim said, we realize that there are things that we disagree on, but we're going to work together on things that we think we could do well to better both of. We have one singular community. I think we see that.
Yeah.
I think when people from the town, say I'm going downtown, they're not talking about going to Bayside and the Bay. They're talking about going to Twigs or One Fed or to the movies or. So, and it's the same from the city. I mean, the city, anytime somebody leaves, they're going through the town. And, former Mayor Liz Gamache actually, she sent me something about Department of Public Works employees and how good of a job they were doing on our roads. She said, I know I'm a former city mayor and I am a city resident, but we all drive through St. Albans and we appreciate how well they're doing. And, we appreciate, Liz reaching out. And I'm excited to see where this goes because like Tim said, very rarely in these situations do you get an influx of positive calls, texts, emails, positive interactions in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And like Tim said, every interaction I've had with anybody related to this joint meeting has been totally positive.
So no, is that right? Not a single negative reaction on this? Or
I
not
think there
much?
was one Facebook comment on the one messenger post that said, "Watch what Mr. Smith and Mr. Deso are doing because they're going to try to merge." So
Well, that's I'm sure that'll be the top agenda item, right?
yeah, we'll merge
Right
everything.
there.
Interesting.
To Brendan's point, the city has brought on a new public works director.
Okay.
And he was on board. He started Monday, and yesterday they were down in the town meeting with Alan Mashter. Marty Manahan took Rob down to meet with Alan, and I saw Alan today. We had a meeting together as well for my work and the town's pump station in the park. And Alan said they had a good meeting. And look forward to working together. So.
Is Rob a Vermont person outside?
Rob Green is kids went to BFA.
Oh, really?
He was actually I don't know couple decades in the Burlington Public Works Department.
No, really. So it's got a good public works background.
Yeah, great public works background. Currently lives in Fairfax, and so he's looking to being engaged in St. Albans. It's a shorter commute. The bureaucracy isn't nearly what Burlington is. So I think he's excited about being able to have an impact and have a visible impact on a lot of things going on in St. Albans.
So is Mr. Marty Manahan wearing one less hat at this point?
Well, Marty's still handling a lot of the administration. He takes the calls. He's taking the complaints. And
will continue to do so, Tim.
He'll probably continue to do so in the short run until Rob gets comfortable. But we didn't want to burden Rob with incoming calls. Marty knows the system well, knows the people, he knows the history. So Marty can, he can connect with Rob and they can work together towards resolving anything that comes up. So, but we just thought Rob can get more in tune with, the system, the water and sewer system and the streets and all that. So that's what his focus is for now.
Right, and speaking of Alan Mash here, of course, the town's PW director, sounds like Alan did some good work on the salt shed. Of course, voters having decisively approved the move of the Public Works garage from the bay to town-owned property on Brigham Road, but you ran into a issue with the salt shed coming in, way over budget?
Oh, we had a terrifying estimate for about
$300,000 or something?
$283,000 more than we budgeted, and our total contingencies between the garage and the salt shed projects
would have wiped that right out.
$240,000. We were about 43 grand short right out of the gate. Hadn't put a shovel in the ground. No. There was already talks of we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to ask for more money. And Alan, we were at a meeting with our design team at Cross Consulting's office, and most people had left, and Alan and our project manager Matt Young and I were there. And Alan took a piece of printer paper and sketched out a scissor truss system that he thought would be more cost effective. And then just yesterday, he made another tweak, about a $20,000 tweak with some plywood. I mean, Alan has been so in tune with this value engineering that I think we're going to get, I think it's a better looking building aesthetically with this new truss system. It's significantly cheaper. At this point, I haven't seen a very clear calculation, but the last estimate before yesterday's meeting was that we have about $100,000 to $110,000 worth of contingencies left. So it was quite a major swing. And Mike Connor at Connor Contracting, they're general contracting the project, the garage relocation project. The salt shed is a separate project due to that V-Trans grant. So we haven't bid that out yet. That's still in design. But Connor has been phenomenal about value engineering, bringing anything, however small or large, to our attention. We're in very good hands. And
construction starting here we are, May 1st, pretty soon?
We're looking to see some dirt possibly moving as early as Monday.
Really?
They're looking at moving, they've got to site a job trailer, move a lot of equipment. Now, there's a lot of material that needs to be brought in and out of the site. So there'll be some increased traffic on the surrounding roads, and that's just part of building a project of that size. But we're really excited to move forward. We are in the position where we will pay 100% for this with no financing, thanks to that local option tax. And we're ready to kick off the construction. We're actually we have preliminarily scheduled a groundbreaking ceremony for the 28th at 8:30 right on site. We just started yesterday reaching out to people, figuring out everything that has to go into that type of an event. And we're excited. We want to get that started and let our team do their jobs and begin looking at a town hall relocation. We had a joint meeting of the Planning Commission and the Select Board Monday night, and one of the big takeaways that came out of it was that our top priority, at least for this year, is to find a piece of land or an existing building that can either have a new town hall sited or be renovated into a town hall. I put the message out there. Nobody should be afraid to get creative and make suggestions, because right now there's no real clear direction as to where we might go. The infrastructure committee had done a lot of work. There was an offer to donate 5 acres of land at the top of Upper Weldon by the Smith family. So,
In fact, I thought didn't the town put some money, didn't you have a...
well, there was a meeting last summer, and I think it was last summer, and there was some talk of putting down, the infrastructure committee thought at that point in time that they were looking to site the Department of Public Works and the town hall on the same site. So they saw 5 acres for free, and they thought, well, let's buy 5 more and have 10. Then we can site everything properly in one location. And the Smith family said, okay, 5 acres free, every acre after $50,000 per acre, which for that area is a very fair price. This is probably a discount, a pretty deep discount. And so the end result was 10 acres for $250,000, even though the first 5 were donated. And we had, mock contracts drawn up, and there was talk of the town putting down 1% of the purchase price.
I guess I thought that didn't happen?
No, there were a couple members of the board that were uncomfortable with it and that voiced some concerns, and it kind of died on the vine. And I'm not entirely sure where that donation stands. That land's pretty valuable to a lot of people. I think that, if it doesn't have a town hall on it, there will be something else eventually.
Yeah.
But
so that site's not. So that's not at this point really the top site. I mean, this is pretty much.
We're open, and we're going to start putting feelers out whenever we get, the town manager back and ready to dive into something like that. Obviously, we have to be respectful of her needs at this point.
Yeah. Any thought? Maybe you touched on it by where the public works garage going on. The town owns plenty of land there. Is that some thought to again putting it on the land that the town already owns, or not too much thought seemingly?
I think it could be discussed. I'd prefer to see that
Not
somewhere. I'd like to, it seems like our residential area that's developing really, really well is up by exit 19.
Yeah.
We vote at the Collins Pearly complex, and I don't think that's entirely just because we aren't able to handle the parking requirements of voting down at our town hall in the bay. I think it's because that's where people are. You've got the Victoria Lane apartments, you've got Harborview, you've got the Prospect Hill developments, everybody in Potter Ave, Parsons Ave, Meadowbrook. So, we're not totally hitting the reset button on all the work that the infrastructure committee had done, but we're going to refresh their list, see where we're at, and then I'm not afraid to get creative with it. There are several opportunities available, and at the end of the day, something like this is it's an organization looking to make a real estate acquisition, and we just have to figure out where we want our headquarters to be and make it happen.
So that's obviously a big issue for you folks this year.
Yeah, it's our
2019.
So we have 4 priorities that we laid out. The town hall is probably the most important. We agreed that studies have been done about rehabbing our existing facility. We just think that the site constraints, we're going to have to move. The other 3 priorities are...
Let me go back. We've got our first call. I'll try to go back to that, okay?
Perfect.
Thanks, caller. Go ahead. You're on St. Albans Today for the record.
Good evening, gentlemen. How you guys doing tonight?
David, how are you?
Hi,
Sounds
Dave.
like Mr. McWilliams.
How you doing, Mr. Smith and Brendan? How you doing?
Good. Yourself?
Well, got my little blood pressure up. A lot of people want the town hall to stay in the bay, because it's the hub of the area. The only problem of having it down there's no water and sewer lines down there, and that's one time the town looked into it, and I think it was very in the millions of dollars to put a water and sewer line down there to pump it up to the city plant. As far as putting it up on top of Upper Weldon, I think that area is too congested now. It's already a failed traffic area up there now, and we would be putting in more headaches up there, and I think that would be a bad place. Down on the Brigham Road, we own the land. Can we put the town hall there? Yeah, but it's a little out of the way, so I think a lot of research has to be done to make sure the decision is made and that the voters of the town of St. Albans will vote where they put the town hall, in my opinion, just like they voted for the town garage.
Oh, it'll absolutely be a vote, Dave. We're every step of the way we'll have voter approval. My worry at this point is that the parking requirements to vote, I don't think we can meet them in the Bay. I think there's a lot of people that say, we'll go buy the old bowling alley and level it into a parking lot, but that's easier said than done. The septic system, you touched on that. That's rated for only so many employees, and we're starting to get to the point where we need to begin thinking about that capacity. An elevator shaft in that building to make it fully ADA compliant would be
Very expensive.
very expensive, and I really, last time we had that study done, I think it was 2013, the feasibility study of renovating that existing facility. I think we need to recognize that renovating that facility into what it needs to be is only going to be a short-term fix in the long run for the town over the next 100 years. I don't know that location is something that really needs to be explored anymore. I think we need to figure out if there are any better opportunities available. And then, the public will be involved in every step of that decision-making process, and they'll get the final say, of course, just like the DPW garage. But, there will be, even if we do move, I think there is a life for this building after it's no longer town hall, and what that looks like, we'll have to figure that out as a community. But, I said it Monday night, my grandfather went to, grade school there. A lot of people did. There are a lot of people with a lot of really good memories of the building, but, I'm not convinced that it can be even renovated to be a sustainable site for the next 50 years or 30 years.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a discussion we'll have to have, and I'm only one person. I have one vote when it comes to something like that. So.
Yeah, Tim, I want to ask a question to Tim. Tim, in the paper there's discussion about 2 buildings going into the industrial park, town industrial park. Could you talk about those? I'll get off the line so I can hear you.
Sure.
Okay, thanks for calling, David.
So I've had this discussion with Brendan and the board and Carrie as well, but we went before the Development Review Board last Thursday to get site plan approval for one of the. So we have years ago we purchased 93 acres from the Magnan family and subdivided those into 9 lots, 8 which are saleable, and developable. And one of those lots, we went before the Development Review Board for site plan review and approval on a 61,000 square foot building where there is a tenant who is interested. There's a developer who has been brought to the table. They're having discussions to see if they can come to an agreement on what the arrangements would be. So that would be one. The other one is a startup company who's looking at a 16,000 square foot building, and that has a potential to expand to 32,000. Still working through some logistics relative to financing, but that one was brought before the board as well. In addition to that, we've heard, I heard today that there's another company who is verbally committed to another smaller lot, as has a fourth company committed to a smaller lot last Monday. So
There's
a lot
more activity than usual. Sounds like you got some.
Yeah, I mean, this is more than ever. I mean, we had we purchased land. We've got the majority of the infrastructure in place. We've had tire kickers, but nothing like we're experiencing now.
That's great.
So there's a lot of activity. We're excited about it. We're busy as we've ever been.
Really?
There's also been a couple inquiries to the city for potential space in the Fonda site. So, knock on wood, but
Great.
if everything were to come to fruition, there could be within the next 3 or 4 years, 6 new developments relative to job creation and new construction. So,
And Tim, speaking of projects, give us an update on the downtown project, the new building slated for Congress and Main intersection,
Yeah,
and apartment buildings on Maiden Lane. That looks like we still have movement. That's moving ahead.
moving ahead, demolition is scheduled for mid-June on those buildings.
Have you still got a few people left in? Four
I
people?
spoke to Marty today, and Marty said there's 4 tenants left,
Yeah.
so they have to be relocated.
Yeah.
So construction will begin on the Main Street side, and then the Maiden Lane housing will follow after that. So both looking at construction a good chunk of the way through 2020.
Yeah, and starting at some point this year?
Yeah, definitely starting this year. Like I said, demolition in mid-June or so, and then trying to get concrete in the ground before the weather changes.
Right. I saw a story on traffic. Obviously, traffic will be impacted to some extent on this, or should that not be too bad?
I don't think it'll be too bad. I mean, it's set aside. It'll be blocked off, and
but I mean, Main Street traffic is certainly not going to stop Main Street.
no, it doesn't. It's not infringing on Main Street at all. Maybe the sidewalk a little bit, but in terms of the main road, no. So, we're sort of in a lull in terms of the city right now. A number of projects are scheduled to move forward in 2020, 2021. Those include Kingman Street streetscape, Federal Street sidewalk project, and then the neighborhood sidewalks are still continuing. And then we have still discussions on combined sewer overflow and trying to get something in place for construction in 2020 as well. So,
speaking of which, right about the time of the last show, it seems like days later, it sounded like not a great situation. A lot of, can I assume it was partially treated sewage effluent by the plant? Was that a particular plant issue? What happened with that?
that was a failure in a pump.
A pump,
So
a
actually,
pump failure?
it was the last step in the process. So
okay.
there was the way it goes through the process. The last step is the outflow of the water gets a chlorinated shot, a shot of chlorine, and that's the last piece. And it's that chlorine pump that failed.
Didn't happen.
So there weren't solids per se that went in. It was just that last shot of chlorine.
We're talking a pretty significant volume.
There's a million gallons that had been was in the outflow.
Does the city any fine for that? Is there any?
None that I know of at this time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the process is. I haven't been involved with that. But like I said, we're in some other instances. I mean, we're fortunate that it went through the end of the process. Yeah, it was the end of the process, and I'm not saying that to sugarcoat it, but I mean, we're fortunate from that perspective.
Yeah.
In the spirit of collaboration, we invited Brian Willett from the city to come down to a select board meeting and brief the board on, the plant upgrades and then that particular pump issue, just to be able to tell the public exactly how that happened. And he did, and it was very informative. Gave a good update and actually invited us to come down. I think it was mid-July for a tour of the plant. So I'm going to keep working to that end. Maybe have a Warren select board meeting just for a tour of the plant, or just have a couple of us and the town manager go for a tour. But we're really excited about their plant upgrades.
We're talking $19 million upgrade, and that work's continuing, Tim, ongoing.
It's ongoing now. I took a tour back in January or February, and they had a decision to make prior to that whether they were going to try to move through and have winter conditions, which they chose to do.
Really?
And based on the winter we had,
they got their winter conditions.
Yeah, they made it a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But it kept it moving forward, and I think the fall is the date for the wrap up, if I'm not mistaken. I've spoken to Chad Spooner on the council when this happened. We're going to look at some redundancy things. Does it make sense to have a second pump in that situation? I mean, this may never happen again, but we want to make sure we have the redundancy to make sure it doesn't happen again. We talked about some additional screening in place to catch anything that might get past the system.
Yeah.
And, try to have something in place to handle that if it ever happens. So, as a council, we're concerned about it, and we'll be discussing it again.
Is there always at least one operator, one person working down there, or not always? Is that?
No, I think I probably shouldn't comment. I don't know for a fact,
Sure.
but I know with technology the way it is, and I'm involved with the Georgia Industrial Development water plant, and sewer's different, I understand, but things are so automated now that, and even more so now when this is done, I don't think it does need 24/7 monitoring.
Yeah. Brendan, you were talking about the 4 priorities for the town. Of course, the new town hall, where to put that if there's going to be a new one. I think we got a call. I'd love to get more calls, folks. Again, our number, if you feel so inspired, 528-5315. I think you were going to talk about the other 3 priorities, kind of.
We're really excited. We tried to pick goals that were obtainable. The next one, I think that'll start seeing some attention is when the water level recedes a little bit, is beautifying the bay dock. And exactly what that scope might look like. We're going to shore it up, patch a couple areas, seal coat it.
And even, you mentioned even some benches. I walked down there.
Benches,
of course, I'm not walking on the dock.
planters.
They stay by the lake. I got back from my trip. I wasn't expecting such a high lake, just about 101 feet above sea level, about a foot above flood stage. Some minor flooding at this point.
We're hoping to see that recede, and the Bay Park walking path is partially covered, even though the park's closed. A lot of residents do use it.
I was on it the last couple of days. Yep, I'm all over that. I think you guys did a really nice job with the Bay Park walking paths.
Thank you, and that leads me into the next part. We're going to go from the Bay Dock. We're actually actively working and have received. We have some significant funding put away in the $120,000 range.
Talking bathhouse here.
Bathhouse, yes.
In fact, I noticed that the windows are boarded up at this point.
Well, we've got the windows pulled out.
And they're being pulled out. In fact,
they're being redone. They're going to be sandblasted, powder coated. The glass will be put back in. Then we'll put the windows in. We got a grant from the State Historical Preservation Board to refinish a lot of the doors, and then we might even get some work done to the cupola up top. I think after that, we might have to look at the roof a little further, and then I think after that we'll even develop a scope of work for some electrical upgrades, bring in some more outlets, some appropriate lighting. Eventually, in my mind, I'd like to see that be one of the most sought-after event spaces in St. Albans.
right.
We have a farmer's market Wednesday nights, and they move inside if it rains. I'd like to give them a little bit better of a facility to operate in. That's a cornerstone of our recreation assets. I think between the city and town, that's a real cornerstone. So we're excited.
Side of Bay Day gets plenty of attention, of course, on Bay Day, but.
Well, there's a car show this year.
Not to mention the car show was great last summer.
We're working on, Alan Mashter. He's a DPW director, but he's also somebody that loves the town. He's a local guy, lives in Lower Newton. He's a taxpayer.
Yeah.
And one of his highest priorities, as a director and as a person, is to see that our parks are the best they can be. And the DPW guys just finished installing trusses and the metal roof on the new pavilion at Cohen Park. That's going to be really nice by the time the park opens. They've got a few odd
Trucks down there. I was wondering what was going on.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
Well, we've got a couple odd jobs to finish up, but there's a sidewalk right from the edge of the parking area all the way in, so it'll be totally ADA compliant. We're just looking to move forward. And then, of course, returning priority from last year is going to be the St. Albans Health Path, specifically the stretch to somehow connect Route 7 to the complex with a crosswalk near the Old Thorpe Avenue. And we need to figure out a way for students primarily to be able to cross the St. Albans Access Highway without, 50-mile-an-hour traffic. Eventually, the loose plan, not entirely on paper, is connect the complex to Route 7, then the complex to the hospital to Hardack, and then Hardack to the rail trail. And then maybe someday, 30, 40, 50 years from now, somebody could bring the rail trail down into the bay. And I think if we had that St. Albans health path that tied into the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail, we would be
great.
we'd be sought after. Look at the Colchester Causeway and what that means for that community, and then all the people that use. That could be a major economic driver for the area. And a lot of people think of sidewalks as something for people who already live here to enjoy, but there's a lot of data that shows that it doesn't just bring more people in. It also raises property values over time. It's a good investment to make.
You're kind of touching, I know I saw a messenger story when I got back about branding St. Albans. You're kind of touching on that right now, but really just some of the things that, get some, just make St. Albans town attractive to folks.
Well, it's been tried in the past to, have collaborations between the city and town to brand St. Albans as a particular thing. I think Northern Star or something like that was one of them. I really think that we could be the gateway to the Port of Montreal from New England if we marketed ourselves right. We've got, I think Peerless is a company that's managed out of Canada, Barry Callebaut. We've already got a lot of Canadian industry right here in our backyards.
Yeah.
Tim does a phenomenal job as FCIDC director. We were just in a meeting at noon today with representatives from the park tenants and talking about a sewer pump upgrade. It's been an ongoing joke at our select board meetings every time we get the industrial park warrant. How high is that warrant going to be, and how much is it because of the old pump and the repair cost? And Tim, Alan Mashchair, Carrie Johnson, Anna Borden, and then a gentleman from a pump.
Champlain Pumps, is that?
Champlain or something like that. They've developed a proposal. I think it was received very well by the park tenants, and it looks like they're going to move forward with it. So, Tim's an organizer. He's somebody that can bring people together for a common goal, and he did that today. And I'm looking forward to learning from him and working with him to get the city and town brought together a little bit better.
Tim, there was some filming in St. Albans. I'm not sure Hollywood was coming to town, but I know there was some filming some months ago. Did anything come of that? I'm not exactly sure what the goal of that was, but I know there was some activity.
Yeah, some activity. It was down in the Bay Park at the bathhouse, and then on McQuam Shore Road.
Yeah.
City and town worked together to accommodate that. I haven't seen the movie come out yet. It's a Hallmark movie.
So a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. But it may be quiet, but it's not a done deal. They were very impressed with the cooperation they got. Saved them money in the production of the movie, and they definitely want to come back. There's talking to Liz Gamache, because Liz has sort of been the conduit to that. There's a cooking show that they want to come up and work with potentially the tech center's culinary class because of that. So there's still some things in the works. Nothing's been finalized by any means, but the discussions are still ongoing.
Yeah. Talk about the branding. Certainly, again, you've had your day job, Franklin County Industrial Development Corp., for a number of years. I've been hanging around here for more than a few decades, but certainly when you think of St. Albans, certainly its image, wouldn't you say? You're a local guy. The image of St. Albans has really improved and pretty dramatically, has it not, over a few decades?
Statewide, even beyond the region. There was, I think I shared with Brendan, we were fortunate enough to entertain Irvina Liu was her name, and she came up and wrote an article for a very small article for AAA New England Journal. And she took that experience and she rolled it into another article for a family magazine.
Oh, really?
And I shared that with you, I think.
They have over like
you
a
mentioned that
million
before.
average subscribers. It's a really good
So she ran another story about, and it wasn't just St. Albans City, it was about the Bay, Burton's Island, the rail trail, it was about all that. And you're right, I think people are looking to this region. We as an organization have worked closely with colleagues from across the border. We just had a We just had a luncheon over the Maple Festival with a couple council people from St. John, Quebec, and
great.
how we can work together to
Yeah.
exchange.
Great.
We have a cross-border map, which, historically you picked up a map and the road stopped at the border.
Right.
This goes across the border. It tells you what events they have, what destinations, as do we,
Yeah,
on the map.
that's great.
And we printed 30,000 and we've distributed them over a 2-year period, so they're out.
Yeah.
My travels on Main Street, we find more and more people from wherever visiting the county.
Yeah.
So we're trying to market ourselves as a destination, cross-border, St. John, Cowansville, Grand Isle, and Franklin County. So if you come to the hotel, you come to back in time, you stay locally. Now you have a number of activities. And intentionally, we didn't include Burlington and we didn't include Montreal because we think there's enough between the two regions to keep people here, and there's enough activities to keep them busy. There's multiple bike paths in St. John. I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity.
La Route Verte has all kinds of great biking once you cross the border also.
Local foods, cheeses, wines. I mean, there's
the
a
wine,
lot.
I've never even done the wine, not
there's-
even far away. I've never even done that.
Yeah, there's a lot. I just wanted to touch on one thing. In the industrial park, Act 250 has required that when there's a new construction or expansion, that it requires a sidewalk.
Oh, is that right?
And Ben & Jerry's had to put in a sidewalk on their property. Peerless had to do one. Barry Callebaut was supposed to. We negotiated a deal where Barry Callebaut would give FCIDC their money, because if Barry Callebaut put one in, we would have had 3 sidewalks.
I mean, these sidewalks they worth anything? Or like of old friend Dave Handy,
Well, that's
ran into the same thing.
That would have been the situation in the town industrial
Really?
park. But Barry Callebaut agreed to turn their money over to us, and we used it to connect the Peerless sidewalk all the way down to Ben & Jerry's.
Oh, yeah.
With the exception of, we ended up with about a 130-foot gap. We didn't have enough money to cover that.
Yeah.
I went to Brendan, talked to Carrie. We had a meeting Monday
Thursday
morning.
morning.
Was it last Thursday? Talked to the town, said, look, we're just 130 feet short, and this sidewalk is probably more than a half mile long.
Really?
And it starts at the railroad tracks and goes all the way down into into our park.
Yeah.
And the town agreed to spend $8,000 to
Finish
finish
it.
it, and FCIDC put in $2,500.
Right.
But without that collaboration, you would have had a gap.
Yeah.
We all would have addressed comments on social media and everything else, but we understood the value of it. Town understood the value.
Good.
And then I was down in our industrial park where the 2 of those new entities may end up, and we can extend that sidewalk even further. Ben & Jerry's is looking for a path. I think that will suffice for what their needs are. If people are on break, they can walk a half-mile path, a sidewalk through the park, and it gets people off the road. It's a safer, and it looks great.
Yeah.
And new clientele coming into the park will see that, and it sends a message. To Brendan's point.
That's what we were thinking. Tim reached out to Carrie and I and said, max $8,500. If you put that up, we'll get this finished, and it won't look right if we don't do it. And a lot of us took a trip by and looked exactly where he was talking about, and he was right. And we called a special meeting, warned it right off. We had 3 select board members that were able to attend, and we authorized the manager to pull from a capital reserve account for projects to cover that cost. And now our industrial park will have for its employees a half-mile sidewalk, and we're happy about that.
It looks great.
Sounds good.
So-
Well, on that optimistic note, pretty much out of time. Brendan Deso, thanks very much. And again, next time we see you, you'll be a married man. Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials.
Thank you very
And we'll
much.
understand if you missed the June meeting.
Thank
you may
you.
be otherwise occupied. Thanks to Brendan. St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, always good to see you. Thanks a lot. And again, we're all feeling, condolences to Carrie Johnson and the Johnson family. Just terrible news I just got before the show about the death of Side Judge Bob Johnson, and a tremendous loss for Franklin County. Bob served Franklin County and St. Albans Town very well. Very sad news. Thanks for watching us on Northwest Access TV. Richard Cowperthwait here. Thanks to Zach for doing all the hard work. We'll see you next month. See ya.